in the pulsations of global consciousness, what's happened is that, certainly in this country and in Europe, we entered a satiation phase. We're satiated. And we've become addicted to satiation. Our purpose, our mission, our goal is to live in a state of satiation. One way we do that is through food. If you eat enough food, and if you keep enough glucose in the bloodstream for long enough, you just, it's basically you're drugged, you know. And we don't feel okay unless we have that sense of being drugged. But drugs come in different forms, you know, the whole thing with the Mexican border and all the 100 million pounds a day or whatever it is of drugs that are coming across the border, where people are just trying to be satiated. Economically, we're looking for satiation. You know, we want a government, and we believe, see, the thing is, it goes so deep that we believe in a government that keeps all the people satiated. The addiction has become that deeply ingrained that it's considered to be our birthright to be satiated. Now the riots in Europe, because why? Because in the United Kingdom, they can no longer afford to give people tuition to college, or give it or sell it really cheap, whatever. So tuition is tripling or whatever. And what do? They riot. They riot in the streets. Did you see Prince Charles and Camilla or whatever? They were in a car, and the rioters saw them and were smashing eggs and stuff against the car and yelling off with their heads. And why? Because they are no longer able to satiate the people. So the people are furious because they consider it their right to be satiated. So that's a phase, you see. It's a phase of group consciousness pulsing through the planet at this time. And it can pulse different in one area, part of the globe, to another also. In fact, if you look at Asia, it's a very different pulse right now. You know, it was interesting to watch how Japan, speaking of Asia, because Japan went through a satiation period some time ago. And how do you know? How could you tell? Without going to Japan, how could you tell? Oh, the purple hair guys walking down the street in Japan with the spikes and all this. It created a satiated generation when the parents became so affluent that the kids no longer had to be bird dogs. Now, what do I mean by that? I'm a veterinarian. I remember when I had my practice in Florida, speaking in dramatic generalizations and addressing the two extremes, you see. Addressing the two extremes, I would say there are two kinds of dogs. There's Fifi, that has her little nails painted and sleeps in bed with the owner, and gets her little shampoo and her little cut and everything every week. And every time she goes to the bathroom, the owner wipes her hind end, puts oil of Olay, feeds her out of a little silver bowl. And Fifi, just my observation, is a miserable dog. I mean, miserable, not happy. That's one extreme. And then there's the bird dogs. These things come in, they just grab them, they throw them in cages, and they take a can of food. They don't even bother taking the food out of the can. Did you see that? They just cut open the top of the can and throw the can in the cage. That's how you feed these bird dogs. And these bird dogs come in and they run them, and then they throw them in the cage, and they never bathe them or anything. And they run them through the briars in Florida where I had my practice, and they come in all torn up. they're happy as clams, you know. You can tell they're just fulfilled. They're happy animals. And then poor Fifi is miserable. Fifi needs a psychotherapist. You know, but these bird dogs are doing great. And these bird dogs are amazing. You know, they come in all torn up and they got a big gash. Sew them up, Doc. You don't even have to give them anesthetic. You're sitting there sewing up this gash on this bird dog, and he's smiling, his tongue's hanging out, and he's just having a good old time. Doesn't feel a thing. Mentality. The pulsations of global consciousness well up through that level of one's being as mentality. And you can gauge the health, the pollution level, the economic prosperity level. You can gauge everything about a culture by looking no further than the mentality of the global consciousness. It's all right there. And right now, things just aren't right. The satiation phase usually ends with some hard blows. You know, and history repeats itself. It's the tortoise and the hare, was that it? Or what was the thing? The world owes me a living. What was that little thing? The world owes me a living. I think I saw that out of a Walt Disney thing when I was a kid. Doody 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 doo. Yeah. Yeah, there's kind of a world owes me a living mentality, you know. And the thing is, it's not just in the people it's not just in the have-nots. The haves are part of that same mentality. So that the haves believe that the have-nots are owed a living. We've lost touch with reality. The reality is, if you want firewood, you got to go out and chop it. You don't have a right to a warm fireplace. It's not your right. You got to go out and chop the wood. And to the degree to which you expect that wood to be chopped for you is the degree to which you're carrying a satiation component in your awareness.